Welcome to Brothers of the Word, because, brother, you need the Word. And I'm here today just to tell you that a blessing is on the way. And God sent me here today simply to give you the message that a blessing is on the way. And when I heard God speak that, I had to ask God, I said, Lord, who do I tell a blessing is on the way? Because I've always been skeptical whenever I hear someone just make a blanket statement to everybody that a breakthrough is coming, because I don't believe breakthrough is coming for everybody. So I said, Lord, who do you want me to tell a blessing is on the way? Because I just don't think that a blessing is on the way for everybody. But God says, tell them a blessing is on the way to those who can receive it. Many times I send blessings, but my people cannot and will not receive the blessing. So God is saying to you right now that a blessing is on the way if you will receive it. And as I thought about it and looked through my life and looked through the Bible, oftentimes God will send you a blessing, and it just doesn't look like a blessing at the time. When God told Joseph and he showed him in a dream that he would rise in power and his family would be bowing down to him. And fundamentally, if God could have spoken explicitly what it was, God would have been able to say, you will be the number 2 man in the most powerful and richest country on the face of the earth. I am going to take you from a farm to a palace where you will be second only to Pharaoh. That was the blessing, if he could receive it. But to get the blessing, Joseph had to go through a few things. He had to be thrown into the pit, and he had to be thrown into prison, but is on the way to the blessing. The problem was the blessing didn't look like a blessing at the time. So God is telling you now, he's getting ready to send you a blessing for those who can receive it. So everything that comes to you, I want you to start looking with different eyes, that many times blessings don't come packaged in pretty wrapping paper and ribbons. Often it comes packaged. The red ribbon is blood and pain and struggle and strife. I just gave a young man $1,000 this morning because he brought his high school diploma. And there were 3 men a few years ago that I made the promise to, for anyone who completes their diploma, they'll get $1,000. And I am sure that there were times when this young man didn't see a high school diploma as a blessing. There were times when he had to go through trigonometry and algebra and history and English. There were times when he had to sweat through homework and projects. There were times when this did not look like a blessing, it looked like a problem. So God is saying to you today, I'm sending you a blessing if you can receive the blessing. I'm here to tell you today that sometimes stuff will happen on your left and stuff will happen on your right. And sometimes stuff will happen to you. But if you can view it through the eyes of blessing, you'll be able to see the blessing that God has sent for you. So how do you get in position to receive the blessing that God is sending? Because see, if God sends the blessing, he says he's sending the blessing. He said, but my people cannot and will not receive the blessing so many times. So how do you get yourself in position to receive the blessing? You have to walk with God and obey his voice. The first mention of blessing is in Genesis chapter 12, verse 2. And it says, and I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee, and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curseth thee. And in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed. So Abram departed as the Lord had spoken unto him, and Lot went with him. And Abram was 75 years old when he departed out of Haran. When I walked into the sanctuary this morning, the praise team was singing the blessings of Abraham. That was the first mention of blessing in the Bible. So it confirmed just even the message today. But Abraham was 75 years old when God told him he was going to make him a blessing and his seed would populate the earth. He was 75 years old, but Abraham was 100 before the blessed child got. It was 25 years. And Abraham thought that God had overlooked him in his blessing. He went through all of this delay and all of this wait. But right now, when you look throughout the world, the two largest religions in the world are Christianity and Islam, both of them from the seed of Abraham. So when you look at what God had promised him, it didn't come like Abraham wanted. God said, when he spoke it to Abraham, and Abraham was 75, Abraham was, surely I'm going to have my wife pregnant by 76. And then 77 and 78 and all this stuff went by, and Abraham didn't understand it. And see, we think that Ishmael was a mistake, but it wasn't a mistake. God delayed it. Ishmael, we may not agree with him, but that's the largest seed of Abraham. So God knew what he was doing, and sometimes a blessing, it comes wrapped up in a package that doesn't look like a blessing. And delay is never a package that looks like a blessing. Lord, this stuff is taking too long. Delay is never a package that looks like a blessing. But I'll tell you this. The greater the blessing, often the greater the challenge and tribulation of the blessing. The greater the blessing, the greater the challenge and tribulation of the blessing. So to get the blessing that's coming, you need to walk with God and obey his word and his voice. Deuteronomy chapter 11, beginning at verse 26 says, Behold, I set before you this day a blessing and a curse. A blessing if ye obey the commandments of the Lord your God, which I command you this day, and a curse if ye will not obey the commandments of the Lord your God. But turn aside out of the way which I command you this day to go after other gods which ye have not known. And I stand before you right now, the victim of blessing and curse. You say, Pastor, I'm in a curse right now. What are you talking about? When I got here on Thursday, Marcus was out in the hall and he was telling me that he had pulled something in his back. And I was talking with him about it. I said, well, man, I got a pull in my knee. And I said, I got the pull in my knee. I was racing my son, Christian. I had gone out with him a couple of days earlier, and we were in the park jogging around. He said, Daddy, I want to race you. So we did about 500 or 600-yard dash sprints, just flat out. And I beat him every time, but he's still a little, but he's fast. He's a young, but then Marcus said, I thought you said God told you not to compete. And he did. And I didn't follow it. And I realized that's why my knee was hurting. Because I had competed and I just ran flat out and it pulled something in my knee. When God tells you something, he has a multitude of reasons for telling you that. I set before you this day life and death, blessing and cursing. Choose ye this day. And see, there are some things there's nothing wrong with competing, but if he has told you not to compete, it becomes a violation for you. There's nothing wrong with anybody else competing, but if God has told you not to do it, it's a violation. So when you've heard the voice of God on some things, but we get wrapped up in flesh and our own will and what we want to do, and then when the pain comes, we don't want to admit the bag had nothing to do with the pain. The pain is there because of disobedience, because in my spirit, I wanted to win. And I won, but I lost. And that's what will happen with a lot of, so you win the thing on the surface, and when you look at what you won, it's nothing. You haven't won a thing, but you think you have won something, and it may feel good for the moment, but in truth, because you have disobeyed what God commanded you, you lose in the long run.